My name's Scott Moore. I'm the Crime Prevention Specialist and the Public Information Officer with the Louisville Police Department. And so if there's ever any questions that you have pertaining to fraud, scams, or other things that are going on in our community or with you personally, please feel free to contact me. My information is here, it's in your packet, and that's for you to use. So feel free at any time. When it comes to fraud and scams, criminals are really good at, we were just talking about this, really good at doing what they do. They are professionals at defrauding you. So we are not professionals at protecting ourselves from being defrauded. So there's some things that we just need to know to help us to be able to protect ourselves. What criminals like to do is they're going to throw out the broadest net that they can possibly throw out. And hopefully they will catch an individual when they do that they can then defraud. We don't want to be that one person that stands out in this crowd. The person that is the target of their scams, their frauds, right? So what is it that we can do in order to protect ourselves from being the person that stands out? Sometimes it's not even us that cause us to stand out in the crowd. I'm going to show you this here. This is a social media account. This social media account is one of the most innocent ones you can probably think of. This is the first day of school for these two girls here. Her mom was very proud of them. Very proud to tell where they're going to school, what they're doing, the way that they're growing up. You know, these are ways that you build relationships with family and friends. But this is also the way that oftentimes people can gain information they may be able to use against you. Maybe your son or daughter you have grandchildren and they put something like this up on their social media account. I'm going to walk you through how this might hurt you in a little bit. But if you look at this, underneath these, their names are listed next to their grades. Their school is listed down here where they posted their picture next to their school. Here, in any social media account, you have the opportunity to connect yourselves with others, right? This shows the relationships of the significant other and other family members, which maybe you are connected as a family member to your son or your daughter, which is then connected to your grandchildren through these pictures. And through this, you also see that they know who their teachers are, they know what their aspirations are, they want to do this when they grow up. These are their favorite subjects in school. All great information to have in order to scam somebody later into thinking, build that relationship, build that connection, and then be able to use those pieces of information to profit off of you at another time. We'll talk about this, but this is some of the ways that we might be able to start protecting ourselves, is to think about what we innocently do and how we give out information. So you may not know this, but Colorado is actually the top, or one of the top states, and it fluctuates a little bit, for elder fraud. Why is that? Well, I believe these statistics are actually from 2022, so they might be a little out of date, but they still ring pretty true. In 2022, 272,900 older adults were victims of fraud. In Colorado, okay? And that is an estimated $2.75 billion were defrauded from elders in Colorado.
Is that reported to police or through someone mentioned?
So this is an estimated amount, and it's not just through the police, but also reported through maybe the Federal Trade Commission, other things like that. Unfortunately, one of the reasons that this is estimated is that across the board, not just fraud, but across the board when it comes to crime, it's said that up to 60% of crime is unreported. So it could be much higher than this because of that. But absolutely, absolutely. But it paints a picture here, doesn't it? 272,000 older adults in Colorado being defrauded of $2.75 billion. And the sad thing is it's not just people that we don't know that sometimes take from us. It can be trusted individuals as well. It can be family that does this as well. We need to know the signs. We need to know how to protect ourselves. And this is a very real thing. Up to 300 to 400 calls a month go to the AARP Elder Watch program to gain assistance on fraud for elders. 300 to 400 a month in the state of Colorado. So why is this? Why Why as an older adult might you be targeted in the state of Colorado, but why in general, why might we be targeted? Here are some of the reasons. Exactly. You might be more trusting. And you want to trust, right? You want to trust. You also, many times, are also seen with having, your generation maybe has more wealth than some of the younger generations has. You might be isolated. You might not have your friends, your family, those that you're talking with to discuss different situations with and things, and you might be making decisions without other advice. Technology is also sometimes a struggle. We don't know how the computer works, the phone works. We don't know how some of these things are affecting us. So this might be a struggle for us in this generation and might be used against us. And last, health concerns and memory concerns also might be an issue. And these are some of the reasons why you're targeted as an older adult when it comes to fraud and scams. In Colorado, these are the top 10 fraud scams that are happening that we need to be aware of. We're going to go through each one of these today. We'll do a real quick overview of them. We'll talk a little bit about how to protect ourselves from them as we go through that. But these are the ones that are most common in the state of Colorado. To begin, the imposter government scam. What this is the Social Security or the police department or the sheriff's department or some sort of government agency may be giving you a call, which is a scam, okay? So they call you, they tell you, I'm with, let's use the Louisville Police Department. They call up and say, I'm Sergeant Smith from the Louisville Police Department. We have a warrant for your arrest. If you pay the arrest today, we can get that cleared up for you and we can make sure that you're good to go. So they might give you some different information. They might say you're with. Here's the tricky part in today's day and age as well. Technology, it's a difficult thing for us to understand sometimes. Artificial intelligence, AI, has created even more issues with this now. They might be able to actually spoof the phone number from the police department. So when you pick up your phone and look at it, the Louisville Police Department is calling you, but it's not really us. And then they say they're with that police department and they give that name and then tell you need to get this cleared up, and then they tell you how to clear that up. It might be through, you can pay through gold, cryptocurrency, a gift card, all these types of funds that actually have no tie back to you and are much harder to get back if you actually give them the money. Okay? So, how do we protect ourselves from these types of things? If you are called by a government agency, whether it's the Social Security Administration or a police department or whoever it might be, I would suggest, if you do not believe this is a legitimate call, that a government agency will never ask you for money over the phone, period. So if you do not believe this is a legitimate call, but you want to follow up on that to make sure, then what I would do is ask the individual on the phone for a case number. Okay? If you have a warrant for your arrest, you have a case number. If you have fines that you need to pay through the Social Security Administration, there's going to be a case number, incident number that's tied to that. Ask for that number. Then what you need to do is hang that phone up and say, I'd like to follow up on this. I will call the Louisville Police Department back. I will call the Social Security Administration back with this case number and talk to them directly to get this resolved. If you believe this is a scam and you don't want to go to that extent, never hesitate to be rude and hang up. Okay? That is one of the reasons that sometimes older adults are also targeted, is because they don't want to be assertive and rude, but it's not assertive and rude, it is protecting yourself. So feel free at any time that you receive a phone call that you don't think is legitimate, just to hang up that phone call. Okay? Don't ever give out financial personal information. Never give financial personal information to anyone that calls you. If they call and say, hey, I just need to verify with you your street address and your bank account number to clear this check or whatever it might be, never give out personal information over the phone. That's why we have Social Security Administration offices That's why we have a police department. Feel free to go down to those and take care of the things you need to take care of if that's a legitimate reason to do it. Don't trust your caller ID. We talked about this already. It can be spoofed. It can make it look like it's a legitimate phone call when it is not a legitimate phone call. And don't ever click on text messages or links in emails that you don't know what they are. Never do that. If you do that, that gives a gateway. They can use that to get into your computer to do the things that they need to do. They might be looking for email addresses that are in your computer. They might be looking for some sort of financial information on some banking that you do on the computer. There's all different kinds of things they can look for, but clicking on those text messages and clicking on those emails will give them the opportunity to get into your computer. It is the gateway. It's the permission they needed. So the next scam that we're going to look at is one that's called the lottery scam. This has been around for a very, very long time. And it's those sweepstakes, like the National Clearinghouse sweepstake or the lottery or things like that. Those are used against us as well. First rule of thumb that I want you to remember is you will never win a sweepstakes that you have not entered. Okay? And so when they call you up and told you that you've won something and you didn't enter it, you just hang up that phone, okay? But the way that this works is that someone will call you up, let you know that you've won a sweepstakes, and through that, there's a few fees that you're going to have to pay. We're going to send you this check, and that check will clear when your fees have been paid for. So there might be a $250 tax that you have to pay on it, or there's an entry fee that you needed to pay, and once that's paid, you're good to go. They send you the check, you deposit that check. Do checks get cleared automatically when you put them in the bank? They don't. There's sometimes that waiting period when they have to go back and verify the funds with the other, but while that's happening, you've already paid them out their fees that are not real fees, and through that, they've gained what they're looking for. That check now bounces and you're out everything, right? So that's how the lottery scams work. So what do? Real sweepstakes it is illegal for them to ask you to pay for something to enter, okay? Sweepstakes are free. When you signed up for the National Clearinghouse sweepstakes, you didn't have to pay a dime to get into that sweepstakes. They also have to tell you the odds of winning those. There's certain things that sweepstakes legally have to do. Contest promoters might sell your information. So when you go to that holiday craft fair and there's somebody there that's doing a sweepstakes, and if you give them your information to win, do you know how they gain their finances in order to pay for the sweepstakes that they're giving back out? They sell all that information. So that's how you start getting all the junk mail in your mailbox, or you start getting emails from other vendors that you have never heard of, is that they've sold that information, and by giving out that information to them, you've given them rights to do that. They profit off of you, which opens you up and makes you more vulnerable to these frauds and scams. So I would avoid those contests or sweepstakes. Maybe Anderson Windows is giving you an opportunity to win new windows. If you need windows, go and talk to them. But don't sign up for the sweepstakes types things that makes you more vulnerable to becoming a victim. Contest promoters have to tell you certain things like how much the entry fee is, what prizes there are, and their value. This is also really important to know. If you win something, you'll have to pay the taxes on that. If you win $50,000, you're going to end up having to pay that gift tax or the lottery, right, on top of the money that you. So they have to tell you what those things are worth. Sweepstakes mailings must say that you don't have to pay to participate. So you will never have to pay a fee in order to participate in a sweepstakes. It's important to remember. And you cannot win if you do not enter. Computer viruses and frauds. These are big. We've talked a little bit about this already. This is one that I think is probably the most common as I talk with individuals in our community and beyond, that probably all of us have experienced something that was probably a fraud through email or text messaging. So what will happen is you'll get an email. This email might go into your email box. It looks very legitimate, or and you click on something. So at this point, that's given them that gateway into your computer. I've spoke with one individual once who was sitting at their computer, and a picture of themselves popped up on the picture, or on the screen, on a pop-up. And it said, you have this virus, you need to contact this phone number and we can resolve this for you. But as she looked at this picture, she realized that this picture was actually her sitting in the seat that she was sitting in that room. They used her webcam to take that picture to try to get her to fix the virus that was on the computer. Know this, that computer virus companies, legitimate computer virus companies, will never contact you to tell you you have a virus, ever. They're not going to call you on the phone and say, this is going on with your computer, we want to help you fix it. If you have a virus, you're going to know long before anybody else that you have that virus. They're not going to contact you. If someone contacts you, turn off that computer. If there's a pop-up ad, turn it off. The way that we prevent these things from happening is we do need to make sure that we have software on our computer that is virus software, and on our cell phones as well. Your cell phone, most of us that carry smartphones are carrying small computers in our pockets these days, right? And they act the same way. You have your email, you're browsing the internet. We're just as vulnerable through the phone as we are the computer. So make sure your phone also is doing updates on a regular basis. Make sure that your phone and your computer are automatically updating, that it's not something that you have to manually go in and do to keep your computer up to date or your phone up to date. The reason for that is when these updates, these software updates are coming out, they're getting the latest information on what virus might be there. And they're helping to protect you from getting that onto your computer or your phone. So if you're automatically getting those, you're also automatically helping to protect yourself against that. You can also, on your phone, you can download apps that are computer software or virus software apps on your phone to go the extra step if you'd like. But make sure that you're doing that to protect yourself. Also know that if you're getting those phone calls of people asking you to pay for fixing that virus, then that is not a legitimate company. You just hang up and you don't deal with them. The issue is if they're on there and they're doing that pop-up and they're telling you that through your computer to tell you to call, that means that there is some sort of malware virus that is on your computer and it's time to get that fixed. Okay. Virus software, or contact a computer professional to take a look at that for you to get those things off. Home repair and improvement scams. These are also really common. Louisville was hit pretty hard with those after the Marshall Fire. When there's a natural disaster, these types of scammers love to pop up. In older communities where homes might be needing some repair or remodeling, these often pop up. What this is maybe a contractor will knock on your door and say, you know, we had a hailstorm that moved through the area. I'd love to just take a look at your roof for you and see if there's something I can do to help you out to get that repaired. They'll come back, they'll tell you that your roof needs to be repaired, and it's only going to cost this much money, but today, I can cut that in half for you. I'm in the area, I'd love to help you out. We're doing a few others that are in your area as well, so I can reduce that cost, but you're going to have to sign up today to get that done. So you sign up, you maybe pay a deposit on that because it's a 50% up front, 50% on completion, and now you never see them again and they're off with your 50% deposit. My advice to you in these types of scams, slow down. And that's probably my advice on every scam, but especially this. Slow down. Do not, if anybody is rushing you to make these types of decisions, do not rush into that contract. If you are not comfortable with this, or if they're presenting a problem you didn't even know, that's probably your first indication that you need to be checking things out further. So slow it down, get some second opinions, maybe call another contractor to come and look and see what they think. If you're doing something like a roof, call your insurance company too. Say, hey, I just got this notice that I had hail damage. Would you come and take a look at it? They'd be happy to. It is okay to be rude. They're standing in front of you at the door and you think they're a fraud and scam, you can absolutely say no thank you and have a nice day and shut that door. It's okay to end those conversations. I would really suggest any kind of contract that you're signing, maybe to have other eyes put on it as well besides yours. Never sign it day of. If this is big work that needs to be done, it's a great idea to get a second opinion anyway, and maybe another bid or 2 bids in order for you to move forward with those things. Use that against the scammer if you need to as well. Great, I thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll look further into this and get back to you if you're the person that wants to move forward with. Whatever you'd like to do, but slow it down, take your time, talk with other people. The best information you can usually get when you're talking with contractors is usually word of mouth recommendations from people you know. Who did you use to do your kitchen remodel? Who did you use to put new windows in your house? And go and find out from others who's reputable. You can also call Better Business Bureau. You can call some of those other agencies that do recommendations to get some information or to check up on somebody if you think that, to find out if they're legitimate or not. Phishing scams. These are almost exactly what they sound like, just a little different. Phishing scam is just that. Someone is going to throw out their rod and reel and throw it into the river and keep doing it and doing it and doing it until they hook their fish. But it's actually done through emails. It's done through text messages. It's done in other ways. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to get that sucker on the end of the line, right? Right? And so they're going to keep doing it until they find that one person that stands out that we talked about in the beginning. And this is where we need to be informed. Do not ever click on those things or engage in those opportunities that you didn't solicit yourself or you haven't had a relationship with in the past. Make sure that you're not clicking on those links in emails. In those, you also do, I'm sure many of you also do all of your banking online. Or you might do your records through your computer. You might have spreadsheets in there that have your passwords in them. Other things like that. That's what phishing scams are about, is once you've clicked on that, it gets the gateway. It's the gateway into where they need to get to gain all that information. Steps to protect ourselves. Once again, software is important. Make sure you're up to date on all of your computer virus software and those updates that need to be done on your phone and your computer. Protect your mobile phone by setting software updates automatically. A lot of people don't have this done, but it's very important not only to support the technology of your phone itself, but also to support the software that's in it. Protect your accounts by using multi-factor authentication. If you don't know what that is, it means we take 2 steps in order to get into our accounts instead of just 1. For many of us, we might have a password set up and we type in the password and that's the only way that we get into our phone or into our email or other things. You can set up another authentication mode. It might be a thumbprint on your phone, or it could be your text, a passcode that you have to enter in. But with setting up the multi-factor, it almost eliminates the opportunity for somebody outside of you to be able to gain entry into those protected accounts. And protect your data by backing it up. It's a good idea that all those things are always backed up securely, which means that you might back it up on an external hard drive for your computer. That's not a part of your computer. You might back it up to the cloud. For many of you, your phones automatically do some of these things for you, like all your pictures you take might be backed up to a cloud database. We need to protect our important information as well by doing the same thing. This is one that unfortunately is very common as well. Romance and dating schemes. When we go back to the list of reasons that older adults may be targeted for scams, 2 of those reasons were isolated and very trusting. And those are the 2 things that an individual that's taking advantage of somebody in this type of scam uses the most. They're going to very quickly try to build a relationship with you. They will never meet you in person. It's always going to be an online or on phone type of relationship. They're going to give excuses on why they can't be there in person, but they're going to build that relationship. The thing is that this is going to move extremely quick. That they're going to pressure you into things, they're going to move you in directions, they're going to gain your trust, and they're going to ask for money. A very common one is, I work on an oil rig out in the ocean. I can't get to the mainland right now, but I need this amount of money to be able to come back, or whatever it might be. And you start building those trust, and they take advantage of you through that trust and that relationship. We have actually worked with individuals in the past who have sold their home, sent money to that individual because they were going to build that life together. I mean, it's sad the way that these work, but if you think about it, you as a trusting individual, you as building this relationship with this individual, you as a very generous, caring individual, have really built that relationship and want to help this individual out. You don't know you're being taken advantage of. I don't fault that person for doing that, but hopefully we can help others to recognize what's happening before it happens now. If you are a victim of fraud, I want you to hear this. It is not your fault. It's the fault of the individual that's doing it, not yours. What we're trying to do is help you to build the resiliency so that you don't become that victim. Slow down. This is the most important thing. If you're building a relationship with an individual on that level to begin with, it's a good idea to make sure that you're really taking your time to do that right? So slow down and don't be rushed. They're really going to want to rush you because they want that relationship to develop quickly so they can gain access to your finances very quickly as well. Never transfer money. Don't ever transfer money to an individual that you don't know, you don't have that relationship with. You may transfer money to family sometimes. You may do some things like that. That's different, right? You know where that's going, you know what you're doing. But if you've never met this individual, never transfer that money. And a lot of the times, these are very common. The forms of money, currency, they're going to ask you for are currencies that cannot be traced. Gift cards, gold, cryptocurrency, those sort of things. If anyone is ever asking you to do business that way or ask for a donation that way, it's probably fraudulent. No legitimate company will ever ask for a gift card for you to pay with. Gift cards are only meant to be given as gifts. Identity theft. This happens way too often as well. And this is when somebody actually takes your identity, that social security number, maybe the bank account number, and they create a new you under those things and use your credit for their advantage, not to yours. The way that these things usually happen is maybe there's an individual that's standing behind you at an ATM and is watching you as you type in a PIN number. Maybe that happens at the gas pump as you're pumping gas. There might be a skimmer on the gas pump.
That happened to me.
Did it?
Mm-hmm.
They are very difficult to detect.
$60 of gas later.
Yeah.
Can you explain that? What happened?
So a gas skimmer is actually a device that is put over the credit card slot at a ATM, anywhere a credit card can be used by sliding it in. A gas pump is very commonplace for it to happen. And if you get gas at Costco now, you'll see that you can actually do tapping on it. And that's one way that they're combating that type of fraud, so you don't slip it in. The other thing, the tapping is absolutely safer.
Okay.
Yes.
So they put a machine against the slot?
So it looks just like the normal machine, but it slides over the top. So as you slide that in there, what they're doing is they're tracking the information off the card, the magnetic strip, and then usually you're having to enter in some sort of information as well. You might have to put a PIN in. It keeps track of that PIN. Or in many gas stations use a zip code to verify it. So you have to hit the zip code in. It tracks that. Now it has that information so they can go later use your credit card number with your PIN or your zip code or whatever to fraudulently charge on your card.
So you're saying that randomly all gas pumps are vulnerable to that kind of...
Anywhere that's public that has a credit card slide is vulnerable to this. There's ways to prevent yourself from being defrauded from that. You are always welcome to shake that. See if that thing is being able to be removed or not. If it's not, then it's the real thing. It's not a scammer. You also can take a look on all gas pumps. There's stickers that go on the sides of the pump where they open up. If those stickers are broken, do not use that gas pump. That's a sign that may have been, a skimmer may have been put onto that pump. They have safeguards in place to help with those sort of things. So it's just it looks like a piece of tape, a strip that's put on the outsides of those machines. You'll see them if you're looking for them. But go ahead and look for those things, and if it's removed, if it's not sticking right, or if it's broken, don't use that pump. You had a question?
Just where to look for them.
Yeah, every gas pump might be different, but it might be on the side of the machine where it closes. It could be anywhere where that machine would open up so that you could get to the electronics is where that strip will be.
A lot of places you can't even use cash anymore, so everything is.
Yeah, yeah.
Does this happen at the grocery store, at retail?
No, it doesn't happen there because it's those are protected, right? So somebody's not going to be able to come in and put that mechanism on the machine while the cashier is standing right there to do that. So I'm not saying it could never happen, but the likelihood is not there. Yeah. So just be cautious of those things.
Can you see it? I'm sorry. Can you see the thing? No.
You usually can't because they usually look just like the real thing.
Okay.
What about places, an example would be Moxie in Louisville,
Mhm.
where you get points every time you purchase something, and when you get a certain number of points, then you get a few dollars off.
Mhm.
To do that, you have to put in your phone number or maybe
And
is that vulnerable as well?
it's not really that as vulnerable as some of these other things are. What I would look into is when you're signing up for reward programs to know where your information goes. Is that something that only that company is using for that type of reward program? Or is there an opportunity that that information might be sold to other marketers and things? If it's going to be sold, then I wouldn't sign up for that reward
I
program.
don't think anybody I've ever asked has said, we sell it.
There are those out there that do.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't think.
Yeah.
people are aware.
And you can always look at the fine print of the reward program that you're signing up to, and just make sure that is something just for that organization, or if that information can go other places. It's a great question. So, what can we do in identity fraud? Call the companies that you know that you've been defrauded in. Report those things. Change logins, change your passwords, change your PINs, do all of that. If you ever have an instance, you said that you were $600 later on gas. If that happened, the first thing that you'd want to do is call your credit card company and cancel that card. Call your banks, let them know that happened. A lot of times with the proper report, a police report, credit card companies will refund that. That is actually one reason I would suggest in any situation that you're paying with a card, to pay with a credit card and not a debit card. Okay? The difference is that a debit card is tied directly to your bank account, whether it's savings or it's checking, and through that you can have your bank account drained if they steal that information. With a credit card, it's just credit that they're taking, and many times the credit card company will work with you to write off those things if it's a fraud, and you're not always out that money like you would be with your debit cards. So if you use a bank card and that's a debit card, you're also entering in that PIN number, right? In order to use that card, you're giving that information to those individuals. With a credit card, you're not doing the same things. So credit cards are safer when it comes to this type of fraud and scams. Place fraud alerts on your accounts. If you've been defrauded, you need to call one with a fraud alert. It's only one of the credit bureaus that you need to call, whether it's Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. You only have to call one of them, let them know that you need a fraud alert on your account, and that fraud alert will then be put on your account for 1 year. There's a difference between fraud alerts and fraud freezes, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But if you have been defrauded, this is the best way to handle that, is to get that put onto your account for the year. Fraud alerts and freezes are also free to do. And report your identity theft to the Federal Trade Commission as well. The grandparent scam. So let's go back to that slide that we saw earlier, the slide from social media with the grandkids and all that, and start to think about that information that was there on that social media account, that Facebook page. So now they know what your grandkids' names are. They know what city they live in. They know what school they go to. They know who their parents are, the names of the parents. They have all kinds of information. They can even take that further if they wanted to. Since they know what city they're in, what school they go to, they could probably Google their name and find out even what their address is, to all kinds of different information. This is information that's power to them now that you don't know that they have that power. So they call you up and now they say, I'm so-and-so from your grandchildren's school, and we're doing this fundraiser. And then they tell you all about what activities they're in while they're raising that money. Would you like to support your grandchild? Who doesn't want to support their grandkid, right? So those are the things that you need to think about as these come up. Contact your grandchild and ask them all about the things that they're involved in and how you can support them. So it's okay to say, you know what, I think I'd rather work with my grandchild to support them in this than to be giving through you. Move that direction. Another way the grandparent scheme works is they might call you and say, your grandchild is in trouble. This is so-and-so from the Louisville Police Department. Your grandchild was just picked up on a DUI. He's going to need $2,500 for bail tonight. Would you be willing to send the $2,500 to bail him out? There's all kinds of different ways that they're going to attack you in this type of scam, but they're going to use information that they've gained against you to get you to support your grandchild, but to send them money to do it. I would always encourage you, if somebody's asking about your grandkids, to hang up the phone, call your grandchild if they're of age to do that, or call your children and ask about their children and make sure that they're okay, or if there's ways that you can support them and work directly with them to do that instead of through a third party. So that's the other thing with all of these scams is AI is so powerful. They need a little piece, just a few words from an individual in order to recreate their voice, and they can use that then to talk to you as they're trying to scam you. And also, once again, recognize that those caller IDs don't always match where they're really calling from. They can spoof that as well. So always verify. Slow down and verify. These are signs that we need to begin to recognize both for ourselves and our friends, our peers. These are red flags when it comes to financial elder abuse. They include things like sudden changes in the bank accounts. And this oftentimes, unfortunately, is through a caregiver or a family member. Somebody might have power of attorney, financial power of attorney, or somebody may be working with you to help you make decisions financially. If you start to notice, or you know that some of your friends' bank accounts, as you're talking with them, all of a sudden there might be $25,000 that's missing. Where did that go? This might be somebody that you trust is starting to use that fraudulently. I can't tell you, it's dozens probably of calls a year that we get are like that here in Louisville. Yeah. Unusual credit cards showing up. There might be credit cards under your name that you didn't know about. Or, you start getting all these applications for credit cards, and when all that starts happening, sometimes that means that there's a credit card applied for under your name, and now other credit card companies think that you're a target for that as well, so they send you advertisements. So there might be credit card out there. Telephone, water, and electricity might be shut off. Why would that be maybe a sign of elder abuse? You start thinking about it, this individual may always have been paying their bills on time. They have had plenty of means to be able, resources to pay those bills, and all of a sudden they don't. Where's that money going? Maybe they're a victim of fraud. Unpaid bills, same thing. Checks written to cash. If you see as you're doing your reconciling that maybe there's a check in there that doesn't have a name on it, but it says cash, this oftentimes comes from individuals we know as well. Maybe somebody got into your checkbook and wrote themselves a check written to cash and cashed it at the bank. This can also happen if you send a check to someone that was intercepted and they wash that check, reuse that, and now they've written cash on there and written a check under your checking account. So what they'll do is they'll actually get the ink that was there off of that and reuse your routing number, your bank account number, and they'll use it and they'll create a check fraudulently that will then be cashed under your name out of your bank account. Yeah. Yeah. So that can often happen times during this time of season, right? So we're starting to get into the holidays, and maybe we have some grandkids or kids that we're sending checks to in the mail. Maybe there's a better way to do that. Maybe it's a gift card that you send instead of the check, and that gift card then doesn't tie right back to your bank account. Yes?
Is this suggesting that maybe check writing is something we should move away from?
I personally do not write any more checks. Checks probably are the most vulnerable into your personal information of any form of payment that you use. And the reason being is it has all of your information, from your address, most of the time your phone number, your name, it has your routing number, and it has your account number on that piece of information. So if you give that check to an individual that you are doing business with, or you're sending that in the mail, it becomes vulnerable in the wrong hands at that point with all of that information. So once again, credit card is probably your best form of payment because it is protected in different ways than your debit card is, and it also doesn't have all that information on it. You can also use cash apps, things like Venmo or other apps like that you can send money back and forth to do business with, that are also encrypted, and they don't have that personal information like a check would have. Individuals that may all of a sudden just be turning over all of their finances to someone else to deal with, it's a good idea to ask them questions about that. Make sure they're okay. Are they being forced to do this? Is this a decision that they're happy with? If they're just looking for some advice from family, that's okay. But just make sure that's a decision they're making on their own, and it's not something that they're being forced into. Disappearing of cash and valuable objects are also things to worry about. We also take a lot of these types of calls. Caregivers are sometimes the ones that we need to look at for some of these things, right? So you have a caregiver taking care of an elderly. Let's go back to that list of reasons. Why are we taken advantage of? Memory might be an issue. So now all of a sudden my watch or my earrings or something's missing. I knew I had them. I thought that I put them right here. They're missing now. I must have just misplaced them, right? Well, it might be the fact that maybe a caregiver or somebody that's in the home or something has taken those and used those. If those things start to reoccur, those are red flags for us to pay attention to. Unexplained changes in wills or finances. And mood and demeanor is another one, okay? And that can go both directions. If someone that's always happy is now depressed, someone who's depressed is always happy, there might be something that they're trying to hide, some changes that have happened. It's a good idea just to ask about their well-being, check in on their welfare. Ways that we can prevent some of this. Reduce those opportunities for those phone calls. This is the phone number that you need to call or go onto this website, and these are in your packets. But go on and take your name off the call list, okay? When your information is sold, that number's out there everywhere, right? You don't want to be getting calls, soliciting calls from everyone, then you can go and ask to be on the no-call list, so you stop getting those. Seek outside perspectives. Get a consultant, get an attorney. If you're looking at contracts, you have major financial decisions to make, seek advice from others to do those things. Protect your personal information. Shred documents that come to you that you don't want to just throw in the trash. Even if you're just throwing them in the trash, you don't have a shredder, rip those up as much as you can. You get a credit card application in the mail, instead of just throwing it in the mail in the envelope, rip that thing up and then throw it in the trash so it can't be used. One of the ways that scammers like to do this is they'll take your information, they'll redirect your mail to them so that they get those, and they'll fill those out at that point under your name, your identity. Run background checks. If you're working with a contractor, if you're working with an attorney or a healthcare giver, things like that, it's okay to do those background checks to make sure that they're who they say they are. And use your technology to stay connected. Consider enrolling in things like mobile alerts on your phone for your checking accounts, your savings accounts. So if there's you can set limits. If there's ever a withdrawal from an account that's over $500, $1,000, whatever it may be, you're alerted immediately that has happened. Charity scams. Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Checks.
Yeah.
So, I've been advised not to put envelopes in the mail for postman to pick up because there's been mail theft in Louisville, is my understanding.
I
didn't hear your question.
the question was, she's been advised not to put mail into the mailbox because of mail theft.
These checks, yes.
There's been very little of that in Louisville, but there has been some instances. A lot of times when something like that happens, it might be more at an apartment complex where there's a bunch of boxes together type of thing. But just know that mail is always vulnerable. Whether you're receiving or you're trying to send, it can be vulnerable. If you're putting it in your mailbox and raising your flag for the postman to come and get that, what that's telling everybody is there's something in here I want to get to someone else, which to a scammer might be an opportunity is what they see. So it's a good idea to go and drop that in a safe location. Go into your mail office and drop those, if you're doing monthly bills that way, go into the post office and put those with them directly. If you're paying bills, I will tell you though that once again, your safest bet is to automatically do those through your secured payment method from your bank account or your credit cards.
I heard that a mailbox, not private, but a public mailbox, was robbed. Was that in Louisville?
That was not in Louisville. I shouldn't say that. I don't remember that instance if it was in Louisville. And
So I would just recommend going into the
Yep.
post office and putting it right in the slot in the lot.
So one of the things that has happened recently is I do remember an instance in the state of Colorado where a mailman was robbed. And in that, what they took was the keys to mailboxes. And the keys are master keys that get you into those mailboxes, and that's where that comes from. So that is another reason to go in and drop those off directly with the post office. Charity scams. You're generous people. You want to help others, and this is oftentimes a way to open up yourselves that may cause you to open up to fraud. So someone knocks on your door and says, I'm with so-and-so, and this is what's going on. Would you care to support this cause? Or you walk into a restaurant, this is happening now, and there's somebody out front that's talking about their cause. Or in front of the grocery store, things like that. You can actually go on and check. There's organizations that you can go on to and check to see if those are legitimate charities or not. So in your pamphlet, once again, you don't have to write all these down, but the Better Business Bureau, Wise Giving Alliance is one of them. The Charity Navigator, Charity Watch, or GuideStar. Those are all, you can go online, look up the charity and make sure that they're in good standing and see if they're a legitimate charity or not. Once again, please reconsider how you give to those charities as well. It's okay to give to those charities. You can do whatever you like with your money, right? But be careful on how you give. So cash is good. Cash is king, right? If you're giving to an organization, you can get a receipt for that cash. They don't have any ties back to your financial information. Checks, once again, they do. If you can give electronically, that is a great way and probably the best way for you not only to keep track of the donation, but also to protect yourself from any type of fraud. Electronically meaning you're giving through that credit card, you're giving through their donation site and not giving you your information to them, just your donation. Be suspicious of emails again. If you're being solicited for a donation, this happens a lot through the season we just went through, political season. There's all kinds of scams that happen through political season asking for donations to support a certain cause. Look those up, do your research. Do your research, do your research, do your research. Make sure that who you're giving to, that money is going to where you want it to go. Verify information on social media posts. If you're going to a social media post and there's a link for you on there, you're like, I know this organization, I love this organization, I'd love to help them. Don't just click on their social media post link. Go to their website, give directly to them, verify that. The social media post might be a fraudulent social media post for that organization. You can get a free annual credit report. I would suggest doing this. Always go in every year, maybe set a schedule for you to do this, just to go back and look to see what's going on your credit. There may be a red flag on there, like a new account that opened up, accounts that closed. If there's things that you don't recognize, it's giving you the opportunity to go and research those things. Annualcreditreport.com is one of those ways that you can get a free credit report. There's a number of other ways you can do that as well, but that's just a suggestion. If you see your credit score dipping for some reason, might be a red flag. Do some research, find out why that is. It might be something that you just missed a payment. It might be an indicator that something's different, right? So you missed a payment because maybe somebody withdrew on the account that you're using and you didn't know that. Check all the information on your credit reports. Just make sure it's correct. Make sure that your name's correct. Make sure your address is correct. Sometimes fraudsters will redirect things to their address instead of through you, and that would change things. So make sure that all of your information, not just your financial, but your location and personal information is correct on those two. And dispute anything that you may think is wrong. And there's ways through those credit bureaus, each one of them, to be able to do that. Here we are to the credit freezes and the credit alerts. So freezes will lock down your social security number so that no new account can be opened underneath that. But that's not just for a fraudster. It's also for you. You will not be able to open new lines of credit with a credit freeze on. But it's as simple as this. My wife and I recently switched cell phone carriers. And when you switch, they do a credit report on you. Ours are frozen. So when we did that, we actually had to do a temporary unfreeze, which they can do for whatever time you determine. And so we unfroze that for 3 days while they did that, and then it went back onto the freeze. And it's a very simple process to do. You can do it both online or by calling the agency to unfreeze that credit report. But you can see how that works. I was not even able to open up a new credit line of credit or have my credit report done myself, let alone anybody else opening that new line of credit. The thing that doesn't freeze is all of your current accounts. Okay, so if you have a credit card with Visa, there's no type of freeze that's put on that credit card. So fraudsters still have the opportunity to, if they have the avenue to use that account, they can just no longer open a new account with your information. What a credit card alert does is it alerts those agencies, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. It alerts those bureaus that there's been fraudulent information on your account and to watch your accounts for more fraudulent information. And that will happen for just a year. You have no control over the time. It's on there for that year, and then it will fall off at the end of that year. You have to do nothing to take that off. Both of those options are free. Both those options do not change your credit scores. I really do suggest that you put credit freezes on your identity to help to protect you from having your identity stolen. So, general reminders when we're avoiding any type of scam. These are things that you can apply across the board just to help us to protect ourselves from becoming victim. Protect your personal and financial information. Don't ever give that information out to anyone you don't know or anybody that you haven't gone out to do business with. If they're soliciting from you, I'd really question that. Speak with a vetted financial advisor. Lots of people use financial advisors. They're great. They will really propel you into new places, but make sure that you're using somebody that you have done your research on. And a lot of times it's word of mouth. Maybe you have some friends that are using somebody that's been great for them. Or you can do other research, but check out any type of contractor, financial advisor, anybody that you're seeking out, make sure that they're vetted and you do your research. Manage your phone plans or your phone calls. Take yourself off those call lists. Don't answer the phone if you don't recognize who's calling you. Protect yourself when phone calls are coming in. And do your research on everything. Whether it's somebody knocking on your door or an email you get or whatever, if there's money that's involved, make sure that you're checking into where that request is coming from. Avoid contact with any unknown entities. Be skeptical and be rude if you have to protect yourself. Don't rush, always slow down and take your time to think things through. Consider unusual payments of options a extreme red flag. And what we might mean by that again are cryptocurrency, gift cards, money orders, transfers, things like that. If they're asking for those things as their form of payment, that is a red flag. Does it sound too good to be true? If your spidey senses are way up, then trust your gut on those things. Slow down, rethink things, do your research. Actively seek information about scams, frauds. AARP has a website called Elder Fraud. And on that, you can sign up for monthly newsletters that keep informing you about frauds that are happening, things that are going on. But continue to educate yourself on what's real and what's not real. Do you know bank tellers, how they tell what's a real bill and what's a fake form of currency? They study the real thing. So they look at the real $100 bill, and when a fake one comes by, then they understand that that's not real. You have to continue to study and know what's real in order for when the fake comes, that you'll recognize it. If you have been defrauded, this is really important when it comes to preventing victims. If you've been defrauded, tell your story. Let your friends know about it so they can then be aware of those things in their own life too. But it's important not only to get help, it's embarrassing. I understand that. We had an individual that actually lost upwards of $750,000 in a fraud. That's embarrassing. They know that they made some mistakes. It happens. But you have to tell the story. Yep. Tell it. And report it if it happens. Get help so that we can get this back. A lot of the things are going to tell you that if you do a money transfer, you'll never get that money back. That is not necessarily true. It is a very difficult thing to get your money back if you've done money transfers. But if it's handled quick enough and there's a fast enough response, there are ways to reverse some of those things and get that done, but it has to be handled very quickly to do that. So report it quickly, and get the help that you need to get back onto track. When you're reporting, I left information in your packets, this information of the resources, the places that you can go to report those things. And then there's also some resources down here for you when it comes to fraud. The Federal Trade Commission, here once again is the AARP Elder Watch program. And then the Attorney General's office as well will give resources for this information.